Hi, welcome to Culturally Determined on Blogging His TV. I'm your host, Aryeh Cohen-Wade, and my guest today is Laura Goldberg. Laura, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Laura Goldberg. I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. I've lived here for 9 years. I've moved around quite a bit and in each place done a lot of online dating. So I wanted to talk about some things that come up being an experienced user of the medium.
Well, thank you for coming on. So this episode is began at your suggestion, and you're a Blogging Heads viewer, listener, fan, and we've been in contact a little bit recently, and you suggested doing an episode about online dating, and I said that sounds like a fun idea. So I did a previous episode that we'll link to. You don't need to have watched the previous episode. With a woman who goes by the pseudonym Default Friend, and she had a critique of dating apps, and so you saw that episode, and then I guess I mentioned something about the particular photos that people post on dating apps regarding like the travels around the world that they've done, and how there's kind of like similarities and themes that appear within that. In the recent episode I did with Katrina Gulliver, so I think maybe that was what spurred you to reach out. But yeah, you posited that you are kind of like a dating app veteran, or you have a lot more experience than me or Default Friend or other people, and so you have a number of thoughts about
I do.
about dating apps. So I guess to begin, you said you've been part of this world since before they were apps, right? When it was just like online, web browser based dating websites and stuff.
Yeah, so that started, I think, with OkCupid. I know Match.com was advertising probably in the late 90s, maybe. I don't know when they started. But the first one I logged into was OkCupid. And they used to have quizzes. So I think even in high school, my friends and I were taking quizzes and seeing what we got.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then maybe towards my later years of college and my first attempt at grad school, I was on there trying to meet people. That was when I lived in Philadelphia. So that was a website. You could fill out a pretty substantial profile. You could also answer questions that they would use with an algorithm to determine compatibility. And you could compare your answers to potential dates' answers and, think about how well you might get along based on those. I think that was a little more in-depth, a little more helpful than just swiping. Mm-hmm. I also have met people on Craigslist, back when they had personals.
Oh, wow.
And you had to write out a whole, you just had to write out a personals ad.
And weren't those sections removed because there was prostitution happening on there or something along those lines?
I think so. And it's been a few years now. They've been gone for a while, but that was a different way of meeting people as well. And then now even OkCupid, Match, the sites that were originally full-on websites are just apps that you swipe on. I mean, I haven't used OkCupid in a few years, but I think, the first feature of either of those that pops up when you open it is the swipe aspect. Mm-hmm. So browsing, which was a little different, you could check that you were looking for friends with benefits, casual dating, serious dating, activity partners. You could select as many or as few of those as you wanted, whereas now Bumble does have the friend feature, but it's friends or dating. You don't use them concurrently.
Right.
And I've met friends I've had for years on OkCupid.
Yeah, so I guess in the original iteration of these things, maybe especially Match.com, which was, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was started by someone with a kind of a Christian perspective, and it was because I think originally they didn't have a gay section, a gay or lesbian section, because they didn't believe that. I think eventually they gave in on that one, but it was kind of we'll you input your 29 different personality variables, and we'll find perfect matches for you based on our patented algorithm.
Well, eHarmony did that.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Maybe I'm thinking of eHarmony.
And then there are ones that have gone by the wayside, like chemistry.com. That got eaten up by Match or eHarmony at some point. That was personality based too. And then there are other like niche ones like JDate. There's no one on JDate in Utah, I can tell you that.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, so there's JDate. Isn't there one called Christian Mingle? Like there's explicitly kind of like religious ones. I assume there's ones for other possible like affinity groups or categories or identity categories or something. And okay, but then and again, correct me if I'm wrong. So the changes were, the iPhone made, introduced the modern smartphone, and so you have a computer in your pocket, and then Grindr was created as a gay male hookup app, and I think I actually said this in the other episode without knowing the answer, and I didn't look it up. I think Tinder grew out of Grindr, and that's why the names are somewhat similar. But I could be wrong about that. But like the ethos was more towards hooking up than like finding a long-term partner or marriage, but because gay marriage wasn't legal when Grindr first came out.
Yeah, I know gay friends who have met lifelong partners on Grindr, and on Tinder, I mean, it's had this reputation for years of being a hookup app, but you go on there, there's plenty of people on there who have written in their profile, looking for something serious or, not hookups only or something like that.
Yeah, so I would say looking at the people who I see in the greater New York City area, the most common like phrases are no hookups, no one night stands, no friends with benefits. That's pretty common. Like especially on Tinder, like maybe over half of the women who have anything in their profile have something like that. So it makes me think like, one, there must be a lot of guys out there who, if they don't see no hookups, they're like messaging women and just being like, hey, you want to hook up tonight? And then the women are not interested in that, so they put in the profile. But yeah, it's gone beyond just like, it's not, it's more hook uppy than the other apps, I think, but it's not, the people on it don't want to use it that way only.
Yeah, the last message I got on Tinder was, want to have lunch or a heavy makeout sesh? You're hot. And I'm like, no, unmatch. You do not go straight for that. You don't even go straight to, do you want to have lunch? You should be starting with like, hey, I saw this picture you had up. Where was that taken? Like, ask a question.
Yeah, especially during a viral pandemic, I would say. If this match did happen during our recent unpleasantness. But yeah, so there's, and then I assume so one thing we wanted to talk about is the different ways that men and women use the app, and so like I said, there's a lot of women who put something about not wanting hookups, no fuckboys, as a phrase I've seen dozens of times.
Which I'm still not sure I know the true meaning of. I think you discussed the questions surrounding that. I did look it up, and I'm like, I still don't know.
Yeah, it seems vague to me. I think the fuckboy wants the one night stand, I think, or maybe just wants a long-term friends with benefits thing at the most. Like, they're really just interested in sex, and also boy indicates they're kind of like, maybe they live in their parents' basement or something like that. Like, it's kind of a loser, appellation. But yeah. So what are the various the sexes looking for? And so very, very rarely do I actually see a woman who says like looking for friends with benefits or looking for one night stands. It's pretty rare. So how often are there men saying I'm looking for like casual sex or whatever?
Well, I do think that happens a lot more on Tinder. I tend to open Bumble more than I open Tinder, and on Bumble I have filtered out people who have selected looking for something casual.
Right.
Because there are a few options you can check, like something casual, relationship, maybe marriage is an option too. Mm-hmm. So I filtered out the people who do something casual only, but they are on there. I've met them. I've had something casual with them.
Well, good for you, or well, at least thank you for sharing that. Okay, so there's somewhat more. I mean, this this is a website created by Robert Wright, and the kind of the basic like, evolutionary psychology 101 would indicate that there are more men out there looking for something casual than there are women out there looking for something casual. I mean, I see more women where it's just photos of a woman, but it turns out that actually she's in a committed relationship and they want a third to like join them. I see that more often than seeing a single woman who says she wants just to hook up.
There are quite a few profiles out there. Either one, like on my side, I would either get the male partner or the couple in the pictures. And then usually it'll say poly somewhere in there or ethically non-monogamous.
Yeah, ENM. Also, I think I'm guessing, okay, so we're also going to talk about some of the geographical and cultural differences. Probably there are more of that type of person in the greater New York City area than in the greater Salt Lake City area, but maybe not.
I see it quite a few times. I mean, it's not uncommon, and it's an automatic, like, swipe left for me. I have seen every other aspect of a guy's profile and swiped right, and then gone to message him and, like, read the very last sentence I missed and seen one of those terms and been like, oh, really? Like, I thought this was one I might want to meet. Never mind.
Yeah. And then something I see is that women posting not a unicorn. And so I guess like unicorn is a slang term for the like woman, the rare woman who wants to be involved in a woman-man whatever like arrangement. And so there's women who maybe because they look kind of alternative or because their hair is a weird color or they have piercings or something, they must be getting a lot of solicitation from couples. And so they say not a unicorn.
Wait, I had no idea. Like that was never my interpretation of unicorn. I don't think I encounter it as much as you do, but
maybe
I always thought of unicorn as, my friends and I talk about how, men on these apps seem to be looking for their unicorn, their perfect woman who's going to check all the boxes and be exactly what they want physically, and have the right personality. It's like nobody is a unicorn, and swiping can make you feel like you're going to find one because if you just swipe enough, you're going to find someone who's that perfect person for you, even though they don't exist for anyone. I did not know that unicorn.
Unless I'm radically misinterpreting like the salience of this term. I mean, it's possible there's like different regional slang or something about it, but yeah, like not your unicorn. I mean, I guess that could play either way if they're thinking like I'm not your manic pixie dream girl or something like that. Not the. Why would you say not? I'm not your perfect woman. That doesn't make a lot of sense if you're trying to catch someone. So I don't know, but anyway, yeah, there's a lot of polyamory and ethical non-monogamy and so on happening that I guess is somewhat running like parallel and occasionally crosses over into the more mainstream where people are just looking for one partner. Although I feel like I just realized when I was saying there's all these poly people in New York but maybe not in Salt Lake City. Like of course if we're talking about polygamy in its actual state, like it's probably happening more in your area, although very rare.
I'm not aware of any FLDS dating apps, but I mean, there are, I've been aware of that population in Salt Lake City that's not religious, but is poly, and they're definitely out there on the apps. I'm curious what other phrases you encounter.
So I would say the most, aside from the no hookups, no one night stand stuff. I think your cat just joined the chat.
This is quarterback.
Is no Trump supporters. That's very common around here. I'd say that there are 99 no Trump supporters. Which way is swipe? Which is the go away swipe? That's the left. I always get confused.
Yeah.
Trump supporters 45 swipe left. So there's 99 of those and someone who's actually a visible Trump supporter. Putting it out there. But so most people don't have any political content whatsoever. But for here, if there is political content, it's definitely anti-Trump. And then over the past couple months, there's been more Black Lives Matter and that kind of ACAB, all cops are bastards, or that kind of stuff popping up. And then, well, the other thing is not the phrase exactly, but the other thing that I think is interesting is, aside from so after Trump, get out of here, Trump supporters. The main thing that women list is stuff about height, and wanting listing their height and saying they only want a man taller than them, or just saying only men above 6 feet or something like that. And so I guess I was joking with someone that this is like the last acceptable prejudice is height prejudice, because you can't. I mean, maybe some people put it.
Yeah.
No black people or something. I actually saw a woman who seemed to be Latina post no Dominicans in recently, and had some sort of like anti-Dominican sentiment expressed. But you almost never see something like that. But or hair color, or even there's nothing about like you need to have a good job. I mean, maybe very occasionally like good jobs, own a home or anything like that. It's like height is the
that one comes up a lot. I see homeowner a lot. But first I want to circle back to the height. Mm-hmm. I have noticed that men who are shorter add at least 2 inches. Like, right. If they say they're 5'8", when I meet them, I can tell they're 5'6" because I'm 5'6". Mm-hmm. If they say they're 5'6", I can tell they're 5'4" when I meet them because I'm 5'6". And I'm like, this is something that we can see, through a first date or a second date. You can probably get away with lying about maybe where you went to school or what type of job you have, but right. You can't lie about your height right off the bat. And that's just very apparent. But I do see that men write homeowner in their profile quite a bit. And that is not necessarily something I'm attracted to or looking for in a man. You can own a home or not own a home. Mm-hmm. That's not like a checkbox. And I think it signals different things to different people, but it could signal responsibility, which is nice. Mm-hmm. Their ability to be a provider, like put a roof over your head.
Yeah, literally.
You're like their woman, which I own this place, but I don't put it in my profile.
Yeah, I do occasionally see own my own condo or something like that, own my own place. There's a lot more renters here than there probably is in your area. I mean, it also, if you actually own a house and you're a single man, it does maybe indicates you're ready to have a family because you have all this space that you want to fill, or you're anticipating a family someday. And so,
or you have a family because we are no longer young. And
yeah, maybe you own the home, but your ex and the kids live there, and you're in the you're renting a studio somewhere. I guess that's a possibility.
Yeah, I often have to remind myself that people who are in their mid-30s might have 10-year-old kids, and that's normal for a lot of people. Right. Not me, or 12-year-old cats in my case.
Yeah, and so I think people seem to be pretty upfront about having kids. If they do have kids, they'll often say, mom to the best little girl in the world or something like that, which is always kind of sweet. And I wonder if men are somewhat cagier about that.
I don't
that kind
think
of thing.
So. I see so many profiles from men saying they're single dads or have their kids half the time, mm-hmm. have all of their pictures with their kids. And sometimes I see the single dads, and I wonder what happened to those women. There's so many things that, when I see a single dad, I'm like, oh, geez, the mom's just not in the picture at all. What happened? Similarly, other things that spark questions are all the travel pictures. How do you have time to do this? How do you have the money to travel this much, go all these places?
So where are the travel destinations that you've noticed the most that people post photos of?
Machu Picchu's big. Paris. I saw someone who had the Matterhorn and several pictures from Australia the other day. Probably destinations I couldn't quite put my finger on. Just like market in a South Asian country, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
The Seattle gum wall I see a lot.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, maybe we get it a lot more out west. I don't really know either. There's a wall in Seattle that has like chewed gum all over it.
Oh, people like stick their gum onto it?
Yeah.
That's kind of gross.
And it's destination.
If I saw that, I don't think I recognized it. But I guess Seattle is probably more of a draw when you're living in in Utah than maybe in other parts of the country. Yeah, so I mentioned this previous episode, Machu Picchu, very, very common. The either the Eiffel Tower or the Aryeh pyramid at the Louvre, when as I mentioned, the women are often pinching the top of it, through like a forced perspective joke, and then what else? There's somewhere that I guess is in Japan. It's like it's like the road to a temple. It has all these orange like pieces of wood. Do you ever see this one? I'm not exactly sure what it is, but there's a lot of people who go and visit here. Great Wall of China. That's fairly common.
That one.
And yeah, So okay, but these are kind of like, maybe 30 years ago, these would have been the same sort of big like places that people would want to take a picture because it's iconic or something. There's not a lot of Leaning Tower of Pisa, as I mentioned. The pinching the top of the pyramid has replaced Leaning Tower of Pisa for like the gag photograph. I don't know if it's just so played out in the culture that people don't want to seem super basic by posting that photo. But yeah, a lot of it. So it's mostly international travel. I haven't noticed a ton of, people aren't posing with like the Liberty Bell or something, or maybe some Grand Canyon. But it's mostly international travel around here.
So around here, you get action sports. So like I live here because I ski. Mm-hmm. And it is important to me to have a partner who skis. That would be preferable. But sometimes it's like 5 ski pictures. And when you're skiing, you can't tell what a person looks like. You can tell if that's all they're showing, what else do you do? Whenever someone has all of the same kind of picture, I'm like, what else do you do? Right. But we also get like mountain bikers here. Rock climbing is huge. Hiking, everyone has pictures with their dogs on a hike.
So here definitely a lot of hiking. Rock climbing, either at a rock climbing gym or some sort of like actual rock climbing thing, or the I don't know what you call it exactly, like rock climbing on ice, like where they have like the pickaxes and stuff. Yeah. So like and then a lot of skiing. And just a lot of outdoor stuff, but then also a ton of beach photos also, which is also like a way to show off.
We don't get that.
Not wearing very many clothes. But to me, it's almost like as someone. So I've never skied in my life, and so especially if someone is doing like what seems like some sort of extreme sport that's like dangerous, that holds no appeal to me at all, then that's like that's a strike one kind of thing. Because I would never go, ice climbing or in the Arctic. That's just not who I am. And so if that's the kind of thing you want to do, it's probably not going to work out between us.
And people who have all of those types of pictures might in their bio write, "Can you keep up?" And it's almost like this challenge. Like they're trying to say to me, I've never found a woman who can keep up with me yet. Mm-hmm. Will I find someone by showing her all these pictures? I don't know.
Right. Okay. So what are some things that you see that men post on their profiles, and then maybe we can move beyond the profile part, that you're like, this is a red flag?
Yeah. If you don't look like your photos, you're buying drinks until you do.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I've never heard that.
Some will say we'll lie about how we met.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And I'm like, I don't need you to do that. Like, it's 2020. Nobody's lying about how they met online anymore. My friend brought up sapiosexual. Yes,
I see that a lot also. I wouldn't consider that a automatic dismissal, but it is a little bit of
but it's a little pretentious.
So for people who don't know, sapiosexual is kind of this term, fairly recent term created to describe people who are attracted to intelligence. Is that how you would describe it?
That's how I understand it. Fluent in sarcasm is another one.
Yes. That's very common.
People who, I always find it interesting when people write tattoos or tattooed or like into tattoos. And I'm like, well, I can probably tell that by your pictures. You don't need to write it. I have tattoos and it's not like a major part of my identity I need to write down for someone to read. And lastly, I'll say the string of emoji. Mm-hmm. Like it's just airplane, mountain, bike, like just emojis. Sometimes they go on for like lines and lines.
Yeah, I find that very annoying also because maybe people in their 20s or something who like grew up with emojis can just glance at it and understand it in the way that you and I understand written English. But if it takes too long to like decipher like, you know, is that the boat emoji or what exactly? And so
and does that mean you own a boat? You like going on boats?
Right.
I don't know. And one more is the pro-con list, where the cons include not insert name of hot celebrity, like not Brad Pitt, not Zac Efron. And I'm like, I know you're not. I don't expect to meet guys like them.
And so what, but would the pros be like good sense of humor or something? Like what are they're also like bragging on themselves in some way?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen a pro that I've been like really turned off by, but like I've seen enough cons of not being a celebrity where I'm like, that was funny the first time, but I've been doing this too long now. You're not unique.
Yeah, I don't think that must be a regional one. I don't think I've seen that one here. But other ones that for me are, I don't know, the way, I mean, this is somewhat craven, but the way and we'll talk about how maybe swiping is different than like the original iteration of this, where you're like clicking or something and you can dismiss people or cycle through a bunch of people quickly. But like, it's kind of like if there's two like red flags, then it's just like move on. And so, people seem really into Christmas. I'm Jewish. I'm not into Christmas at all. Like if you're really into Christmas, then that's a red flag. Or if you wear a cross or something, we're probably not going to be a good match. But then people who are really into golfing also, I think golfing's really dumb. But there's stuff like that. But the one that's I think my only 100% red flag is anyone who's holding a gun, or is that like a rifle range or a shooting range or something. Like I'm sure this must be different in your area, I would guess. So maybe not. I mean, you see it sometimes. Maybe it's just like, for some people, going to like the shooting range is just another activity, like playing, going to the driving range, to hit some balls or something. But since I really don't like guns, people who are comfortable with that, we're probably not going to be a good match.
I agree. I would just think there would be a lot more of that here than near New York.
Mm-hmm. So you don't see that often?
No, I do, but I would think you wouldn't.
Yeah, there's some. I mean, it's not a ton. There's some. It might be people traveling around or doing on vacation or something. But there must. I'm sure there's gun ranges somewhere in the greater New York area that people go to. Okay. Well, do you want to talk about swiping and?
Yeah, sure. But first, I want to ask you: do you see a lot of women posing in or with their car, or on or with their motorcycle?
Well, I mean, okay, so most people in this age range who live in New York City don't own a car. So that's probably why I don't, but I'm guessing there's fewer women in general who are posing on a car. Maybe that's somewhat like bragging about being a homeowner or something. It's like, showing off your, how much you can spend money on something. So you don't see that a lot. You actually, something that is very common is pictures taken on boats. And yeah, that's, drinking beer in a bikini on a boat, like that's like, 1 on 10 photographs or something. So, you don't need to be super wealthy to have access to a boat around here, but I guess that's, indicates something about you. Mm-hmm. I've never owned a boat, so I'm not part of that lifestyle. I'm not a beautiful boater. But maybe someday. Well, you're landlocked, so
We have reservoirs, not even lakes, reservoirs. But...
yeah. So like, yeah. I mean, there's a marina within walking distance of where I am in Jersey City right now, and yeah, I guess it's like a lifestyle thing and a kind of bragging about some level of affluence. I mean, another thing would be like a rooftop pool in Manhattan or something that maybe only like at some sort of exclusive club or something people have access to, and so it's a really cool shot because you can see the Empire State Building in the background, but they're in the pool in a bikini, and yeah, but then yeah, a lot of beach, photos as well, and yeah, people here love the beach apparently.
I don't, but that's
I don't particularly either. I mean, I'll go. I've always joked that it's too sandy for me. But okay, let's talk about swiping and kind of the psychology of swiping. And I mean, I think I said this in the previous episode. It's like you're given a seemingly infinite number of people, and so if you don't like the person, you can swipe away. And then if like you match with them and they bore you after a couple interactions, then you just start swiping again. And then even if you like meet them in person and have a relationship, you still have like this idea that there's hundreds of thousands of other potential people in your phone who could be better than this person. And I compared it before to when you're trying to decide what to watch on Netflix, and you start watching something and it's like 10 minutes into it, you're kind of bored, and you're like, that there's something else out there that's better than this. And, should you stick with it, or should you jump back into the pool of options and choosing? So it's definitely strange, and it's something novel in terms of human history, that because we were but we evolved in a place where there would be like a couple dozen possible suitors at most, and through most of modern history it would be it wasn't like you had access to tens of thousands of women, at least hypothetical access to them. Like that was, Hugh Hefner had that or something, but real people didn't.
Yeah, sometimes I think about populations that have more restricted environments in which to meet people. Like here in Utah, it's everyone's local singles ward, which is where single LDS members go to meet other single LDS members.
But you are not a member of the LDS Church, because that isn't clear by your name.
I'm Jewish. I'm originally from Cleveland, and my menorah is behind me. So I think, it must be so much simpler for them because they just know they have this finite pool, and I can always keep swiping. Or I can meet a guy and think, oh, good, I met someone, and the guy thinks, but I want to keep swiping. I also think it's people who haven't done much online dating might have a perception of it like, oh, you just get on, and because there's so many people, you can just be constantly meeting people. But I think there are quite a few sort of barriers to entry. So first you have to match, like I have to swipe right and the guy has to swipe right. Then if it's Bumble, I have to message first within 24 hours. Then within 24 hours, they have to message back. Then we have to have a conversation via text that is interesting enough to make one of us want to meet each other. And like every step along the way, you could drop out, or the other person could drop out. And so of all the swipes I take, very few of them result in actually meeting someone.
Right.
One thing I like about Bumble is that extend feature. Like when a guy extends me and gives me 24 more hours to message him, right. I know he must really want to talk to me. Mm-hmm. So that's helpful.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I've heard of guys just swiping right on every girl, and then when they match, that's when they filter out. Whereas women swipe left on almost every guy. I don't know how many swipes you take in either direction, but
yeah, and that would align with the evolutionary psychology stuff once again, I think. But yeah, so I mean, so for people who are somehow still listening to this, even if they have no basic knowledge of online dating, we maybe should have explained this. So okay, so all these apps are free, at least the big ones, and then on Tinder it's both people swiped right, and so they matched, and then it gives you the option to talk to each other. Bumble is supposed to the main difference is like the woman has to go first, and so if there's a match, then the woman has to text with or initiate the conversation within 24 hours, and then the man has 24 hours to respond, and then it's like a permanent match. Or like you said, there's an extend thing that you can do, and I guess some people kind of see that as like, oh, you actually are interested because of the people who are swiping right at everyone. The third major app is Hinge, which is you see, at least I believe you see every person who liked you, who like approved your profile, and then you can either dismiss it or accept it. But it's different than Tinder, because at Tinder you don't actually know that they were matched beforehand, and so sometimes like you're just swiping along and it gives you a message like you just missed a match, and then you're kind of like, well, it's kind of a weird
swiping. Yeah,
it's a weird thing because like, well, was that my soulmate that just drifted by that I somehow swiped the wrong way? But and then there's some cultural differences between the different apps, where, as we said, Tinder is more towards the hookup end of things, and Hinge is, at least in its marketing, is like, we want you to delete this app. We want you to like find a match, and then you won't be on this app anymore. Do they really want that? Then no one would, they wouldn't make any money if it all worked out. So we should be somewhat skeptical. But it tends to be it tends to be here people who are more professional, more have a college education or a graduate degree or something than Tinder, which is, I don't know, there's more people from different socioeconomic classes all mixed together.
I've never used Hinge. I think it got to the point where I'm like, how many apps do I have to have? Especially in a city this size, where like I've lived here a while. I can swipe through and see people who I know I've seen on some app in the last 5 years again, or seen several times. I'm sure there are guys in Salt Lake who have seen me many times over and probably wondered, oh, she's back.
Well, there was a funny article that came out about a year ago that was about the people, it was focusing only on men, but the people who game the system so that their profile is always coming up. And there was this one notorious guy who was known as like the kitchen counter guy.
Yes. I read that.
And so I think basically it's just like, if you delete the app and then reinstall it, then Tinder gives you like a introductory boost to get you hooked and think that you're always going to be getting all these matches. So it like shows your profile more often. And so if you keep on doing this, you get shown a lot. And the joke was that this guy had this like luxurious looking kitchen, and he was always posing in front of like his granite countertops. Maybe that's what it's called, the granite countertop guy. And there were women who were like, I don't like him, but look at those countertops, supposedly. But the second joke was that he actually didn't live in New York City. He lived in Jersey City, because you can't afford a kitchen like that in Manhattan, when you're like 28 years old. So there is that kind of thing and I've noticed women who are gaming it somehow because they pop up every couple days, doing the same thing. So yeah, so there's people who are trying to like hack the system. Yeah. To some extent, although I don't know, it makes one question like what they're actually looking for if they're like using underhanded means to just get their face up there more and more. But the thing about Hinge, I think that I like, is it removes some of the like gamification aspect of it, like that you need to just by chance match each other, or that you need to be looking at your phone every 24 hours to be checking if a woman sent you a message or something, and then if you like missed it. Maybe because, like, if you got hit by a truck, you're in the hospital, and then the woman messaged you, but you didn't respond within 24 hours, it evaporates. So Hinge I think, shows you your matches and lets you approve, disapprove them without this kind of like, game aspect to it. And then all these apps have like a premium tier that gives you more options. Or with Tinder, it lets you see your matches instead of having to be like mysterious, and you just needing like chance to match or not, and so on. So that's how they, maybe the original like eHarmony, you would like pay $45 to get your algorithmic match, whereas here it's like the same thing as like Candy Crush or something. Like the people who use it a lot are subsidizing the free users.
Yeah, I always wonder how many people on Tinder are paying or Bumble are paying, because there's sites like Match where you can't even like reply to a message unless you pay. So, like, if you're going to be paying, wouldn't you pay for something where something like that's a little more in depth, allows a little more control once you pay? I don't know. One thing when I think about messaging is this idea that like it's not cool to message someone. So I don't know if you've ever felt that, but I think this speaks a little more towards like dating as a whole, not just online dating. But like, I remember going out with a guy several years ago. It was on OkCupid, and he, I showed up and he's like, "Oh, thanks for going out with me. I feel like it's not cool to message." And like my friend, because you were talking about it being a game and gaming the system, my friend said yesterday that online dating can be a game of who can care less. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not cool to want to date someone. It's not cool to want a relationship. It's cool to be like, I think for women, the independent cool girl. And I don't know what the flip side is for men. But
well, okay, like, yeah, this is interesting. But I think this goes back to like, this exists in the offline real world realm of it's like, if there's a singles bar and there's like a guy going up and hitting on every single girl, it's not like he, really wants to meet someone. It's like he's just such a fucking loser that he can't do it otherwise. And so, yeah, I think it's is it cool to care? I talked about this in another episode recently with this the 21 Jump Street reboot, where one of the jokes was that kids today actually do care about things, like the cool kids care about things like environmental justice and issues like that, and like they're not bullies, like they care about each other, and they're like shocked that it's cool to care. But it does seem kind of like there's a desperation aspect if you're like messaging someone constantly. I think that would be the same if the app didn't exist and someone was like calling you up all the time to see how you were doing, and you'd be like, just get away from me, and they seem like a loser.
Yeah. I also think, I know that episode with Default Friend, she talked about not liking first dates. Mm-hmm. And it can feel so contrived online. Like, okay, I talked to this guy, we set a time, this is a first date. Whereas if you meet someone in real life, you've probably like seen them at the coffee shop once, right, smiled at them. The second time you said hi and said your name. The third time one asked the other out. And like, you've already had several in-person interactions that make it feel less like this is our first date than like, oh, good, I finally get to like sit down one-on-one with this person instead of stand in line in a crowded coffee shop or something.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it removes some of the, I don't know, romantic sort of like mystery of the other person. I mean, something as someone who was, in a long relationship and which included marriage that ended last year, something where I was like pleasantly surprised by the way online like app dating works is like, it's like smiling at someone in the coffee house. Like, if I thought someone was smiling at me in the coffee shop, I'd be like, what do I do? Like, I'm like mortified. Like, do I talk to him? Like, what if I'm a fool? Then, I'd be, but everyone, if you're on the app, you at least want to like talk to other people and meet them and then see where it goes. So it's kind of like, it's more like a singles bar than like a coffee shop or something, because everyone is there. Like, we're all agreed on what the purpose of this thing is. and there's not like, like I've never hit on a woman in a coffee shop because both because I was in a relationship for a very long time, but also because I'd be like too scared that I would like fuck it up or offend them or make a fool of myself and have to like flee the scene or something like that.
Yeah, but I think like I probably wouldn't approach someone I just saw for the first time in a coffee shop. But I think if you have repeated interactions with someone, like maybe you both belong to a gym and like you see this person happens to walk into the gym around the same time you do every Monday, and like maybe 4 Mondays in a row lead up to you saying, oh, let's go get sushi after we work out today or something. That's a little more organic for as like overused as that word is, than like, yes, we matched on an app. You have a picture skiing. I have a picture skiing. Let's go get a beer. And the pressure to like, is this going to be awkward? Every time I leave for like a first internet date and walk out the door, I'm like, okay, walking to the bar. Is this going to be awkward? Is this going to be awkward? How much will I have to talk? Will he ask me anything? Will he pay? So,
right. Okay. So let's, this is this is a perfect segue to talking about what actually happens when you get off the app and you're meeting someone in real life. So, it seems like the range of possible disasters is much higher for a woman who's meeting a man than a man who's meeting a woman, because, the like highest possible disaster would be like the man kills the woman, and whereas like the woman's not going to kill the man on the first date. You couldn't possibly imagine the man killing the woman on the first date. She might, but it's I haven't feared for my life in any first dates I've gone on, and then I think men are just generally more socially inept and or are more likely to just be like oddball, weirdos who you wouldn't want to really have an extended interaction with. So I've talked to women who have like procedures for how to escape a bad first date, and that seems very common. Or just talking about various disasters, and then I think there's of the dates I've gone on in the year or so that I've been single. There's one where essentially the woman did leave quickly. It was like, I don't exactly know why, but there was never where I was like, oh, I have a meeting in the morning that I need to prepare for, or something like that. Like I never felt like I needed to escape because I might get murdered, or just it might be a really awful time to stay with this person for another couple hours. So how has that worked out for you on these moves to the real world?
I think I've been doing it for so long that like I don't have a lot of fear. Like my fear now isn't what if he's dangerous. It's what if one of us doesn't have anything to say. The only time I can remember that I've used like an out was, this was many years ago. It was OkCupid. I remember that. Because on OkCupid, my profile wasn't my name. It didn't say Laura. I had like a handle, but my name was in my profile. So I had wrote underneath my screen name, like my name is Laura. And I go to a coffee shop to meet a guy, which now I won't do. I'm done with coffee. I have also filtered out people who don't drink. I'm very supportive of those in recovery, but I don't think I could date someone who doesn't drink. I want to be able to go to a bar with whoever I'm with and share beer. I love beer. So I went to a coffee shop. This guy sees me, comes up to me, and I'm like, hi, Eric, whatever his name is, I don't know. And he said, hi, what's your name? And I'm like, what's my name? Like, did you not read anything I wrote? Did you not read my messages where I signed them Laura at the end every time? And
do you think he actually didn't know your name, or maybe that was just like nervousness or something? Like he said that he like when someone like you're going into the movie theater and the guy who rips your ticket says enjoy the show and you say you too. Was it could have been something like that?
I don't know. I thought he really didn't know my name, because that was like I take things at face value, and I'm like, well, I know your name. And I had set a alarm on my phone to go off after like 30 minutes or something. And I was like, oh, that's my reminder. I need to leave now and stop and get milk for my cats on the way home because I'm out of milk and they really love milk. Uh-huh. Which is like true. I was out of milk and the cats really wanted milk. But like, can they go a night without milk? Yes. But I just said that. I went across the street to the convenience store, got milk, and walked home.
Okay, so no like giant disasters.
No, just awkward things like that.
Yeah.
Like there was one guy who we had a full like dinner in Park City on Main Street, so not like the cheapest sushi place there is. And he had said a number of things about who his family was that implied to me that he had quite a bit of money. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, well, obviously you can pay for the sushi. Uh-huh. And the bill comes and he's like, so split it? I'm like, that's just so like, why would you talk so much about your money for most of this date and then do that? Uh-huh. That was so unappealing. And I'm like, I can't wait to get out of here.
That's funny. I think that's a kind of like fraught area of, still of who, egalitarian norms, splitting men and women splitting the bill, or the man should still take the bill for, more old fashioned norms. Or I suppose, do you ever offer just to pay for it right off?
It depends how it's going. Like, if it's going well and I'm thinking like, I would see him again if he's a gentleman, then I'll see if he offers to pay. Mm-hmm. If I know I will, if I've like made up my mind that I will not go on a second date with the guy, I will say, let's split it. And then I don't feel bad that like, he paid for me.
Right.
And I'm sort of sending a message that way. I mean, it's not a deal breaker either way, but it's nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what is so in this previous episode with default friend, the synonymous writer and Twitter person, she had some critiques of Bumble in particular, and I think there were some things that you disagree with her about, and
quarterback, nobody wants to see your butt.
The cat is making another cameo there. So what's something that you think you disagree with her about?
She brought up the idea that Bumble gives women a sense of masculine sexuality by putting women like in control of being the initiator. And to me, Bumble's like the way Bumble directs women in that way has never been all that empowering to me, or all that sexually directed either. So I don't feel like, oh, because I'm on Bumble, I'm like, cruising as a straight woman. Uh-huh. If anything, it feels just, it does, having to initiate does make me send more messages on Bumble than I send on Tinder. On Tinder, I match with someone and I'm like, oh, well, he can message me if he wants to.
Yeah, what I've noticed is that the tacit assumption seems to be the man messages first on Tinder and usually Hinge also. And I mean, that's fine with me, but it is, it is funny that like forcing the woman to message first when it seems like it's not women's natural inclination to message first, but also the, mm-hmm. Like Bumble seemed to be like, in some way a way to avoid like total asshole guys or people who are sending dick pics or harassers or something by like they can't initiate and be like just saying something nasty or something like that.
Yeah, and I've never received like a random dick pic, but on both apps, probably more so Tinder, you see a lot of people just putting their Snapchat or Instagram handles.
Right.
And that'll often be like the only thing they write in their profile. So when I see that, I'm like, okay, this guy might just want to sext and no. So that's another sort of like red flag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that fairly often. A fair amount on Bumble also of women putting, and sometimes it's like, I don't check messages here, like message me on this other thing, and sometimes it's Snapchat. I don't have Snapchat, so I don't participate in that. But and I don't think I've actually messaged a woman on Instagram either. But it is a little bit strange because it's kind of like the whole thing with the app is like enabling the messaging. It's like you jump through the hoop to enable the messaging, and then if you give like your Instagram account and it's not a locked account, then I think anyone can message you. And so it's like but then it's like probably they're not interested in most of the people who would be messaging them. I don't know. Or maybe it's just to show off like if they're the kind of person who has like global travels and all sorts of cool stuff that is just showing off their great lifestyle.
All my other pictures. But Bumble can link to someone's Instagram. So you can see like the first handful of their Instagram photos. They all can. All
the big three or whatever. They all have that ability.
I don't use Instagram, so I don't link mine. I do use Snapchat because inside I'm 22. And it's a really great way to post cat pics because they disappear after 24 hours. So. Right. Nobody needs to see that many pictures of quarterback and his sister cheerleader who is downstairs.
Okay, yeah. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, I had it when it first, I don't know, soon after it gained some level of popularity, I installed it, but I only knew a couple people who had it, and so it was just like the same three people were sending me messages and stuff like that, so I just deleted it.
So I think, like one last thing maybe to touch on would be COVID dating.
Yes. So... as obviously we're in a different world than most of these things were intended for. I mean, in some way, it seems like the apps are ideal for this because you can't be in the coffee shop and kind of like making eyes at someone, or you can't, at least maybe it's different in different parts of the country. You can't be inside a bar in New York or New Jersey right now, and so the normal, and people aren't. Many of them aren't working. They're not at the gym. So the normal places where single and ready to mingle people encounter each other are unavailable. And so you have this way where you can still, talk to people or whatever. And, so that's good. But then there's many more. If you actually do have someone you like, then there's all this fraught stuff about actually meeting.
Bumble does have that option where you can select like I don't know what the question is, like how are you dating now or something, and it's like socially distanced with mask, virtual. Those are I think those are the three options, which is very responsible of them. But like I'm in Utah, things here did not ever shut down as much as they shut down on the coasts, and now more things are open than were open before. You can't sit at a bar, but you can go to a bar and sit at a table.
You can't be like at the bar itself, but you can be at a table. That's inside. That's interesting. Yeah,
so you can like wear your mask up to the bar, get your drink, take it back to your table, then take your mask off and talk to whomever you're with.
I see. And is it Salt Lake City itself, or all of Utah has this strange restriction on going to bars where you need to like be a member or something?
No, that's very old.
Oh, okay, that doesn't exist anymore.
No, that didn't exist when I moved here, and I've lived here 9 years.
Okay.
I know it did. I think previously it did, like before the 2002 Olympics. Then when they were going to have, the masses descend upon the city, they realized people will want to go to bars without paying a member cover fee. So yeah, you can go out here. People are doing that. I can't think of any time I've ever just like met someone at a bar who I then like dated. But like, I can't just, if I were to go out to a bar alone, I would sit at the bar, and you can't do that. But I could arrange to meet someone at a bar right now. Back in March, I did have a Skype date or two. So it's been different. I look at that Bumble option though, and I'm like, I know this is probably how people are still doing it in some cities, but here, like, there should be an option for like actually going out or would meet you outside or willing to go inside.
Right.
I mean, obviously you don't need every option, but people are dating and meeting now. Maybe like March and April, it was a little different, but
yeah,
it's on the upswing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was only sustainable for so long of keeping people like inside. Hinge actually built, at least I haven't used it, but I've just seen it, that Hinge like built essentially like a little video chat thing into the app. So like, and then after you've exchanged a couple, messages with someone, it pops up being like, do you want to have like a video chat with them right now? And so they know that this is what people need. But yeah, so I've done various things are happening. People still want to get with each other. The world must be peopled, as Benedict says in Much Ado About Nothing. But yeah, it is strange. And I mean, there's some, so I guess it also just adds another kind of level of identity to like your profile in a way, because there's be some people who are like, if you don't wear a mask, get out of here. Or they say in their profile, I'd be up for, meeting mask and distance or something. I haven't seen any like mask deniers among the women in their 30s who are on these apps here, but maybe they exist in other places. But then you see people whose profile, not one of their pictures is them wearing a mask. So that's become more popular.
Yeah,
too.
I've seen that. And I think there sort of was a rush, like in the early months, where people who previously hadn't been active on the apps or hadn't maybe even downloaded it before got on. So there was like a bit of a flood of like more activity because everyone was just home on their phones. That's let up a little. But a lot of people, I think I got more messages like in March and April than I do now or did before then, because everyone's just at home. Like, who can I message? Who will talk to me?
We're all stuck at home. Yeah, so I guess the current trajectory of the virus is like, this is going to continue until we get this altered way of living is going to continue until there's a vaccine that can be widely administered. So I think this is the new normal for now, and yeah, like I said, all the normal places, at least in parts of the country that have been severely affected, the normal places where people like get together are closed for now, and so I think this is gonna continue. I actually wonder if are they like doing boom times at Bumble or something with subscriptions or however exactly they make money, if this is like their best time ever.
Maybe.
Do you have any advice for someone who is like new to the world of online dating apps, for them to like have a better experience? Or would you just say don't even to run away?
I think it helps to look at it as like a supplement rather than like the main event, sort of. Like, just because you have an app, like, still talk to people at work, talk to people you see multiple times regularly around. I don't think I'm the best person to give advice. I obviously am still on the apps. I think my advice to guys looking for girls would be, tell us about yourself, in words.
not emojis.
Not emojis, not just a picture of you by your motorcycle, which I'm sure goes very fast. But like, tell us about yourself in words. That would be nice. Ask us questions. Please ask us questions. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think that's all my advice or thoughts, really. What about you, having only been part of swipe life and not email life? How are you finding it?
Well, it's definitely interesting. I mean, I can't remember if I said this in the previous episode, but like, when my marriage ended, and I was like, well, I've been, like off the market for a very long time, and there's this totally different world from anything I ever experienced. I'm kind of like worried about like how this works, and it seems to all be about like, selfies of like beautiful people and stuff like that, or like rock hard abs or something. But I mean, the thing that I realized quickly was like a lot of it is just instant messaging. And I've been instant messaging since I was like 14 years old when we got America Online. And so I'm pretty good at instant messaging. So, I don't have a cool motorcycle that goes really fast or six-pack abs, but I think I can like be clever. And actually one of the things that a very common phrase that women around here want is witty banter. Do you ever see that?
I don't. I love me some witty banter, though. It's great.
Yeah, everyone. I mean, that's like something they're looking for. It's like they're looking for witty banter. I mean, so it's like I'm a Pam looking for my gym, and like I'm looking for witty banter. Those are both very common, and yeah. So that's sort of me. Well, at least in that part of it. Obviously, going when you actually meet with someone, it's kind of it's a different thing, and also is more like it's been for hundreds of years or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, so do you want to plug your Twitter handle?
Plug my Twitter account that has an entire 15 followers. Yes, it's at L.E. Goldberg, the letter L, the letter E, and the most Jewish last name ever. I post random thoughts. I mean, really, it's mostly random thoughts that sometimes my brother or sister will like. And I do write. I just don't write to the degree that I would ever have anything published. And come to Utah and go skiing. That's what we're here for.
Well, thank you for suggesting this topic and coming on and talking about your personal life and other things that maybe not everyone wants to discuss on a podcast, a video podcast nonetheless. And I mean, do you want like singles from the Salt Lake City area sliding into your DMs or not right now?
If that happened, I would be so surprised because I can't imagine I'll get that many viewers from this area, let alone viewers who want to slide into my DMs, but we'll see what happens. I'm not going to close them. So DMs are open.
Yeah. Mine are open too. People are not sliding. I've been joking about this on Twitter that people are not sliding into my DMs. But feel free for whatever reason.
Yeah, I do see people, apparently people meet people on Twitter. I don't really know how because I have no followers, but it could happen for either of us.
Yeah, Twitter it has a dating app kind of aspect to it. And actually there's this funny podcast that is it's like a dating and relationship podcast called Seek Treatment that's with two Brooklyn comedians, and it's early on they were saying that Instagram DMs are the new dating apps. Like the real action happens in the Instagram DMs. Like dating apps are dead. The cool kids are just direct messaging each other on Instagram. So maybe you should get an Instagram too if you want people sliding in there.
It's going to be all cat pictures. You can't be a 30-something woman with 2 cats and not open yourself up to a lot of stereotyping. So
right.
That's why I'm staying away from Instagram.
Okay, well, people can find me on Twitter at REACW, and that's actually my Instagram also, if you want to see my Instagram. Although mostly these days it's photos of flowers and other things I see walking around. But slide on in if you want to chat. We all have some free time these days. Okay, so Laura, thank you for coming on. Thank you to our viewers and listeners, and we'll see you again next time.
Thank you for having me.